Good evening, or should I say good morning, hockey fans. Happy February. Another trade going down in the National Hockey League tonight. Crazy that Vancouver has done the JT Miller trade and now the Marcus Pettersson trade. I got to say, I don't like it for Vancouver. Let's start breaking it all down right here. As the Vancouver Canucks acquire Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor from the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for Danton Heinen, Vinny Desharnais, prospect Melvin Fernstrom, and the protected 2025 first round pick that they just acquired from the Rangers in the JT Miller trade. So now, if the Rangers, worst case scenario, the wheels fall off for the Rangers and they end up having a top 13 pick this year, and the Penguins now receive that 2026 first round pick in exchange for, let's say, a rental on Marcus Pettersson, the Canucks just gave up the return for JT Miller, the main piece, if not the I don't know if you can call it the main piece if you maybe you value height a little bit more, but I would say the main piece, especially if it's going to end up being a top 10 pick in the 2026 draft in exchange for a rental in Marcus Pettersson, essentially moving, if you break it all down like this, I put a tweet out right now, essentially moving JT Miller with Brandstrom, Dorrington, Heinen, Desharnais, and Fernstrom, and getting back Marcus Pettersson, Drew O'Connor, Philip Heidel, and Victor Mancini. So it's instant analysis and reaction for a reason. My instant reaction is, what is Vancouver doing? Yes, Marcus Pettersson's a great player. Yes, Drew O'Connor is going to have a good fit in Vancouver. He's an underrated guy for sure. Yes, Philip Heidel could be your second line center. Yes, Victor Mancini could end up being your third pair defenseman or whatever. But to give up JT Miller for that package, 0 draft picks and 0 prospects coming back your way. You're the one giving up prospects. Jackson Dorrington could be a future third pair guy. Melvin Fernstrom, don't know much about him, but a former third round pick in 2024, an 18-year-old who has 8 points in 35 games in the first division in Sweden. So two potential NHLers. You're the one moving prospects. You move out Dorrington and Fernstrom. You move out 3 roster players in Desharnais, Heinen, and Brandstrom, albeit guys who are fringe NHLers, maybe, and especially Brandstrom and Desharnais. And you move out a top 6 forward with 100-plus point potential in JT Miller to get a UFA rental on Marcus Pettersson. Maybe he signs, maybe he doesn't. Drew O'Connor, who's a bottom 6 energy guy. Philip Heidel, who has a ton of concussion history and maybe your second line center. And Victor Mancini, who's hopefully your third pair D. All of that in your return for JT Miller. At least that first round pick was, okay, we're going to hope that the wheels fall off for the Rangers, and we hope that it's a great unprotected 2026 first round pick. But you just flip it for a guy who just might be a rental, nothing more than a rental in Marcus Pettersson. I don't get this for them. Let's start breaking it all down. I'm seeing a lot of your comments here. Let me just go ahead and are they related? No, they're not, but they're slowly collecting the Infinity Stones there in Vancouver. 2 Elias Petterssons and now Marcus Pettersson. So they're slowly collecting the Infinity Gems, Infinity Stones of the Pettersson dynasties. So Marcus Pettersson, acquired by Vancouver, is a top pair defenseman according to the analytics. He's been playing top pair minutes in Pittsburgh for sure, but honestly, he's not a top pair guy. He's been playing a top pair role, in my opinion. So yes, solid puck mover and complementary presence. He's and also improves offensively. Tall but not strong, gets hit constantly. Very good defensive stick and can swing the puck around the offensive zone. Hits the deck a bit too much. So let's be honest about Marcus Pettersson. I don't think he gets the respect that he should get. I think he's been playing top pair minutes. He's been playing a huge role and eating huge minutes in Pittsburgh. The guy's playing sometimes upwards of 24 minutes per night. He's averaging 22:03 this year, 22:40 last year. In his time in Pittsburgh, he's been averaging 19:22 through 7 seasons with the Penguins. So the last 3 years, he's averaging 20.5 minutes per night or more. This year, 83 blocks in 47 games. Last year, 159. So he does a lot well. He blocks, he hits, he eats a lot of minutes. Let's not fool ourselves and say, oh, he's like a rental second pair guy. No, this guy can play top pair minutes, but the rental part of it doesn't change. So that being said, he's in the 90th percentile of projected wins above replacement over the last 3 seasons, 97th percentile of even strength offense. So take that with a massive grain of salt. He had that 30-point season last year. This is among defensemen, by the way, but his offensive touch has been there. He's been generating offense. If you look at even strength offense this year, especially, his defense has fallen off a cliff, gone from above the 75th percentile to like the 15th percentile. So the even strength defense hasn't been great the last 3 years. Goals per 60, or sorry, this is just goals, not goals per 60. Goals, nothing crazy, 36th percentile. But primary assists, and that's 79th. That's where the offense comes from. He plays big penalty kill minutes. Finishing, don't worry about that. Teammates and competition are both high with that type of ice time for sure. So we got to definitely put some respect on the name of Marcus Pettersson. He's been doing good things with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but as an expiring UFA, to cost the first round pick that you just got as the main piece back for JT Miller, I really don't like this a lot for the Vancouver Canucks. If he's going to re-sign long term, is he worth a first round pick? Yes. An unprotected Rangers first on a team that you're hopefully, I don't know, maybe if you're really convinced that the New York Rangers are going to be a good competitive team, and that first round pick will either be 20th this year or 20th next year, then flipping it for Pettersson on an extension, I suppose that works. But worst case, that you get a rental in exchange for what might be a top 10 pick in 2026, a deep draft. Wow, this could come back to bite the Canucks in a very, very painful way. Could end up working out? Yes, I could see it. Pettersson resigns long term. The Rangers pick is nothing special. Sure, that works. But to still say, going back over here, to still say that you gave up 1, 2, 3, 4 NHL pieces, 2 prospects in exchange for, I'd say, 3 NHL pieces and 1 prospect, or 4 NHL pieces, I suppose. But 2 guys, a guy who can play top pair minutes, a guy who's a bottom 6, a guy who's a middle 6, and a guy who's your third pair in exchange for this whole package of 4 NHLers and 2 prospects. Yes, Jackson Dorrington and Melvin Fernstrom aren't your blue chip guys, but Melvin Fernstrom is a former third-round pick in 2024. He's just been drafted. He's still 18, going on 19, 8 points in 35 games in the first division of Sweden. He's shown good things. Let's start breaking it down. So the Pittsburgh Penguins move out Marcus Pettersson. Their fire sales beginning in Pittsburgh. They get not only a first, but a potential crazy first. Who knows what happens with the New York Rangers in their situation? That's a total unknown. But at the very least, it's a first-round pick for Marcus Pettersson. They get some value for Drew O'Connor, sure. They bring back Danton, Heinen, who they have. But let's go piece by piece. Marcus Pettersson, he's been in Pittsburgh since the not the Raquel trade. It was a Daniel Sprong trade, yes. Anaheim Ducks trading Marcus Pettersson for Daniel Sprong. That worked out great for the Penguins. He's, as I just showed you before, he's been playing huge minutes for them. 3 seasons in a row of playing 20 and a half per night or more. And he's throwing 130 plus hits, 150 plus blocks. He does it all for the Penguins right now. And they're definitely going to miss him, but they're in a fire sale type of status, I suppose, right now. So that makes sense for them to get that value. Marcus Pettersson goes to the Canucks. Where does he fit in Vancouver? Well, if we jump and look at the depth chart here for the Vancouver Canucks, of course, you have Quinn Hughes in your top pair left side, but you can quickly move down Derek Forbort or bump out Noah Juleson. That works fine for the Vancouver Canucks. So Hughes, Myers, Hronek, and Pettersson is your top 4. I like that for Vancouver. Don't get me wrong, the value is crazy, but to have him on your team, that's great. Now, the Canucks, without JT Miller, just lost 5-3 tonight. Take JT Miller out of the offense and put Marcus Pettersson in on the defense. I don't think that equals the value that you need to make the playoffs right now, as they're on the outside looking in. Now you have Heidel coming in on your third line, whatever it might be. I don't know. Anyways, Drew O'Connor also goes to Vancouver. This is going to be a good energy guy for them on the third, fourth line type of thing. If you look at the numbers here, Drew O'Connor is a speedy forechecking left winger, chases down pucks and battles on the boards, but his total lack of finishing touch made him a frustrating presence with the Pens Hall of Fame centers. Yeah, he's getting ice time with Crosby, with Malkin, and it just wasn't working. He'll probably slot effectively in a bottom 6 role with the Vancouver Canucks. Over the last 3 years of weighted average data, 13th percentile of projected wins above replacement. As you can see, this season continues to drop off more into 24-25. The offense has gone up, the defense slightly up, the finishing just almost at the bottom of the league in the 5th percentile the last 3 years. Yes, 90th percentile penalty kill. Yes, 60th percentile of even strength offense, but his even strength defense is atrocious. His finishing is in the garbage. And he's going to provide value, but don't make him a first line finisher. I think he'll do a lot better in Vancouver as a third or fourth liner than he was doing in Pittsburgh as like a middle 6, top 6 guy. So take away the need for him to be a finisher, give him penalty kill minutes, give him easier assignments, and you have a good bottom 6 forward. It's as simple as that. Now the Penguins, if we refresh here, So the Penguins get, so it's Pettersson, O'Connor. Yeah, that's it for what the Canucks get in that deal right there. That's all that they're getting in Marcus Pettersson and Danton and Drew O'Connor, excuse me. Meanwhile, they give up Vinny Desharnais, who's been a depth seventh D kind of guy, a big physical defensive defenseman, 6'7". Every time he steps on the ice, solid stick, somewhat mobile, and kills penalties. Just don't expect him to do much with the puck. I'm not a big fan of Vinny Desharnais. I think he's overpaid at $2 million. I think the Canucks realized that in the depth role that he's been having. Crazy in the even strength of defense and the penalty kill percentiles, but everything else not expected to be high, and it's not high. His overall value has been sloping downward over the last few years. The defense has been high enough that he's still there, so that's fine. But yeah, as the comments are saying here, Desharnais' best is mid. That's the problem here. Sorry, I haven't been pulling up a lot of the comments here. I've been missing a bunch of them, but just to show you here. Tyson saying the Canucks only make this deal thinking they re-sign Marcus. He'll be a second or third pair D-man for years to come. I know, definitely second pair plus. Definitely second pair plus. Give me a top four of Hughes, Hronik, Pettersson, and what's his name? I'm blanking. I just had it. And Myers. Give me a top four like that for this season, and I like that a lot more. So let me go back here. So they definitely have to make sure, they definitely have to think at the very least that an extension is very likely if they're going to be giving up value like that. Yeah, talk type bottom six grinder, good for Vancouver for sure. But Vinny Desharnais, as Tyson says, just terrible at hockey. 12th AHL D-man, he's so bad. I gotta say, I don't think Vinny Desharnais is very good. He's a million times better than I'll ever be, but I don't think he's very good. His best is mid, and usually he's terrible. So I don't think this is the major piece coming back. This just frees up a spot on the blue line for the Vancouver Canucks. Does this move make the Miller trade better now? For which side? For Vancouver? No. If you give up Miller for Heidel and Mancini and that first, at least that first could become something crazy. If the wheels fall off for the Rangers, that can become a top 10 pick in 2026. Is that most likely case scenario? Maybe not, but at least the potential is there. Now to say, okay, we have our full return and we know exactly what it is for JT Miller and like 5 other pieces. We know exactly what it is. And the answer is Pettersson, O'Connor, Heedle, Mancini. That's it. No first, no prospect that could become anything else. That's our return right now. Sorry, going back here. Yeah, Penguins, great for the Penguins here for stacking for the future. Canucks have $27 million next year, so that shouldn't be a problem to re-sign Marcus Pettersson. No, it shouldn't be. Man, third live stream of the evening. Welcome everybody getting in here as we're just past midnight. Happy February. If you haven't subscribed already, do so for breaking news analysis in the real world of hockey. Hit that bell. NHL 25 franchise modes, MLB The Show 24, 25 franchise modes, career simulations. This is the channel for you. I'm glad you found it. Join us and be that much stronger of a team with you here. So Vinny Desharnais, depth defenseman for the Penguins. That's not the major piece. Danton Heinen now reacquired by the Penguins. He was in Pittsburgh for a few years. He was with the Penguins for parts of 2 seasons, yes. 33 and 76, 22 and 65. Then went to Boston, now in Vancouver. 18 points in 51 games on the season so far. Over the last 3 years of weighted average data in the 41st percentile projected wins above replacement. He is a veteran utility winger who plays mid complement two-way hockey at even strength, forechecks and kills penalties, can jump around the lineup if needed. So around, slightly below average, slightly above average for even strength offense, defense, goals, and primary assists. So he definitely brings value, doesn't draw a lot of penalties, great on the penalty kill, and not playing against high levels of competition nor with high levels of competition either. So that's why he's getting fourth line ice time. If you look at Danton Heinen here, so upwards of 17 minutes sometimes with the Canucks, but on average 13:58 per game. With the Penguins, he was playing a smaller role, 12:43, 10:45, and he did decent things, I suppose. But really it was Boston where he woke up a little bit more. He got 14.5 per night. He scored 36 points, found a contract in Vancouver where now they were paying him $2.3 million. So the Penguins are going to have him for this season and into next season. The Penguins, for moving Marcus Pettersson, not only get that first round pick, but they're also getting, sorry, if we go back to the original Penguins deal, let me refresh this here. The Penguins get, so Desharnais, 1 more year at $2 million after this one. Heinen, 1 more year after this one at $2.25 million. So you can flip that or whatever you might do. Melvin Fernstrom, who's a decent prospect, third round pick in this most recent 2024 draft, and that first. So you would think around the deadline, it would be Pettersson for first. That's kind of what defensemen go for at that point. First plus a little bit more maybe. But to be now in February 1st, and they trade Pettersson for that first, which has even some interesting conditions on it, plus a couple of roster players that you could flip another time, and a prospect who was a third round pick just this past off season. That's a great deal for the Penguins. No matter how you look at it, it's a great deal for the Penguins. Could it be a good deal for the Canucks? Eesh, the jury is most certainly out. You got to extend Marcus Pettersson. You got to try to make the postseason, and you got to have Mancini and Heedle doing great things on your team to make me think that it's the right return for JT Miller and that it's the right trade to get done as well. Not only forget about the JT Miller return, JT Miller trade, initially, just in general, to move all that value for a potential rental is a huge question mark. Forget the JT Miller return and how they've repurposed that. Just the fact that they've moved that much value for a potential expiring UFA is risky. Now, that being said, they'll have a ton of cap space. They should be okay, but still, it's not franchise mode. If Marcus Pettersson doesn't want to sign, he's not going to sign. He's been playing top pair minutes in Pittsburgh. Now he'd be promised most likely second pair minutes with the Canucks, and I'm sure he'll be looking for upwards of $5.5-6 million, especially with the expanding salary cap, right? What is Pettersson looking at getting right now? Great question. If he's making what is it again? If he's making, let's go back over here, the Pittsburgh Penguins, is it 4.55? 4.025. I would think that with the top pair minutes that he's been playing, with the hits, with the blocks, with all the stuff that he does, again, going back to the screen on Marcus Pettersson, I would think with the expanding salary cap, he's looking at 5.5 plus, maybe even 6 million plus in the free agent market. I would say that's probably the range. 6 plus might be a little crazy, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like a 5 by 5.8. That might be the type of deal that Marcus Pettersson looks for. So can Vancouver afford that? Yes, but they can't promise him top pair minutes. That's what's different about Vancouver. On that left side, Marcus Pettersson, left-hand shot, right? I just want to make sure. Yeah, left-hand shot. He can only at best get second pair behind Quinn Hughes. Is that the end of the world? No, he'll still get a good partner in Philip Hronek right now. But if Hronek and Hughes end up being the top pair of the future, and Myers is going to be retiring soon enough, and he's playing second pair, who's going to be his third pair guy over here? Victor Mancini? I don't know. But Soucy, Juleson, these aren't really long-term pieces for the Canucks, for guys who could play with Marcus Pettersson if he were to sign 5 by 5.8, whatever I just said, right? Probably, I'd say larger than 5.5, 5 by 5. I'd say a little larger than that. And yeah, Tom Willander, true. Tom Willander will be there. True, my apologies. Tom Willander will be there soon enough. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to breaking down the trade as I keep getting sidetracked by different things. So that's Vinny Desharnais. That's Danton Heinen. Let's refresh this and go through it one more time. So starting back here, the Vancouver Canucks get, in exchange for, as I said just before, the full trade. If we look at JT Miller, and then here's my little meme on the Pettersson Infinity Stones. Thanks to Gen Z McKenzie on that one. So for JT Miller, Eric Brandstrom, Danton Heinen, Vinny Desharnais, and 2 prospects in Dorrington and Fernstrom, they're bringing back Pettersson, O'Connor, Heedle, and Mancini. That's the total package of JT Miller. In just the trade that has been completed tonight, just looking at the Penguins deal, the Canucks are moving that first-round pick, Desharnais and Heinen. So Desharnais, right here, depth defenseman. Where'd he go? Depth defenseman, good defensively, solid penalty kill, but does a lot not super well at the same time. Like, honestly, when I watch him, again, a million times better than I'll ever be. When I watch him, I think cone, like traffic cone. That's kind of what I think when I think Desharnais. Like, he just goes around and gets a lot of penalties, and he doesn't look great defensively. Penalty kill, that's great. Lie down, block shots, Hal Gill, whatever. A lot of pushback on physical, says Jay Fresh here. He does throw hits, 87th percentile this season among D, but I've seen some data that doesn't paint him as much of a board battler. Interesting. So Vinny Desharnais, if we look at him, when he plays, he's been averaging 15.58 of ice time, 54 hits over 34 games. Last year in Edmonton, 135 hits over 78 games. So yeah, he's physical, he's big, he's a penalty killer. Are the Penguins going to use him much? Yeah, on the third pair for sure. Now, if we look at the Penguins team and see their, depth chart, I'm not sure if it's updated yet or not. Where's depth chart? Come on, depth chart. Here we go. Yeah. So Raquel, Crosby, Rust, Bunting, Hayes, Tomasino, Imama. Probably you're gonna have Heinen, Glass, Beauvillier, maybe Imama, Lizotte, Achari. Then on defense, Grizzlick, Latang's your top pair. Graves, Carlson, and your third pair, Vinny, Desharnais, and P.O. Joseph. That sounds like analytic nightmare. Oh boy. So yeah, it's not gonna. The Penguins aren't going for much this season, anyways. I don't think they're going to get anything out of Vinny Desharnais, but I could see Danton Heinen being flipped eventually for something. Maybe they find some use for him. It's really that first round pick that they're getting back, plus Melvin Fernstrom, who is an 18-year-old former third round pick going on 19 later this month. 19-year-old soon enough in the next few weeks. Third round pick, 8 points in 35 games in the top division in Sweden. So Melvin Fernstrom is a nice prospect to throw in your system if I'm the Pittsburgh Penguins. Plus I get that first round pick from the Rangers, potentially giving me 3 firsts in 2025, or worst case, 2 firsts in 2025 and an unprotected first from the Ranger plus my own, so 2 firsts in 2026. So 2 firsts, maybe 3 firsts in 2025, no second, 3 thirds, a fourth, 3 fifths, a sixth, and a seventh. 2026, a first, maybe would be 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, a fourth, no fifth, a sixth, 2 sevenths. And then in 2027, a first, 2 seconds, 2 thirds. So Kyle Dubas is doing what he has to do to build up the prospect pool of the future of this Pittsburgh Penguins organization. And I like that a lot for them. Now, could they have gotten more from Marcus Pettersson at the deadline? I don't think so. I think that's about it. A first, and a very interesting first, plus a B-level prospect, plus a couple of roster players. I think that's the value that they could have gotten, and I think they're wise to take it now. What's also Jay Fresh saying, I like it for the Pens. I always did think they'd get a first for Pettersson. And if the Canucks can contend or lock up Pettersson below $5 million, I like it okay for them too. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that's a fair thing to say. It would be okay for the Canucks if they can get him locked up for under $6 million. Yeah, okay. Anything we can look. So Drew O'Connor, we looked at his numbers, 16 points in 53 games this season. He scored 33 last year. He'll definitely have less ice time with the Canucks. Like last year, he did it with 15:45 of ice time. This year, 14:37. I'd see him going back to being in the 10-minute range with the Vancouver Canucks. So the offense will already, the low offense will come down a little bit more. And he'll be able to play that more penalty kill role as opposed to being asked to be a finisher in the middle six to the top six, which is not for him. Danton Heinen, he can move up and down the lineup. He's been as high as a 47-point player in his career. As of late, he's in that mid to high 30 range. This year, 18 and 51, not great in Vancouver. His ice time is at 14 minutes per night. He's a hit per game, block every other night kind of guy. And we looked at his analytics as well. We saw that he was in the 41st percentile of projected wins above replacement over the last 3 years. His overall value has dipped down from around just above league average of 50%, 50th percentile to now somewhere in that 30th percentile or so. The offense has really gone down, finishing down a little bit, but the defense has gone up. So, hey, you know what? We'll see what happens with him. Worst case, they walk, they become nothing, and the Penguins just get that first and the prospect for Pettersson, and that's fine by me. And I'm pretty sure that's fine by them as well. That's Heinen. Vinny Desharnais, yeah, it's I don't want to see him in a dark alley. 3 assists, -5 in 34 games on the year so far. As we just looked at, he hits, he blocks, doesn't play massive minutes. He's appeared in 34 games this year. He's been a depth guy for them, 3rd pair, 7th D. Yeah, so the Vancouver Canucks, if we actually go and look at, I want to see Puckpedia now and look at the number of this. Yeah, so Pittsburgh has to be hoping the wheels fall off for the Rangers. This is an exact copy and paste of what Cam Robinson tweeted before. It said Vancouver. Now it's Pittsburgh has to be hoping that the wheels fall off for the Rangers and that the pick slides to a 2026 unprotected first. If I'm Pittsburgh, I much rather that first be, let's say, 15th overall in 2026. Or I should say, it's a deeper class. So I'd rather have a 2026 first than a 2025 first. So I'd rather not pick 14th or 15th in 2025. I'd rather roll the dice on 2026. And maybe it ends up being 20th, but that could still equal 15th in 2025. So I'd much rather rolling the dice in 2026 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And they got to hope that the wheels fall off for the Rangers. Absolutely. Let's go back over here. I want to see Puckpedia and the numbers here, salary cap wise. So, yeah, the Canucks, their 3 offseason signings, Heinen, Desharnais, and Sprong, all gone. There you go. Between the 2 trades now the Canucks have made tonight, they've saved 2.87 annual cap hit. And the Penguins, if you look at their trade breakdown here, the Penguins are freeing up, 700,000? So the Canucks are taking on 700,000 more. I see. So if we go back to the Vancouver Canucks and look at their summary, refresh it here. Yeah, that's been updated. Good. So they're at 2.387 million in cap space, but they're going to have a lot of money here. Expiring Brock Besser, that's a question mark. Pia Suter, not a big deal. Aturatu, he'll get a contract. Marcus Pettersson, they want to sign him. Forbort, I don't know if he'll walk or what. Demko signed on for 1 more year at $5 million. So yeah, so Connor Garland, Brock Besser, Thatcher Demko, Marcus Pettersson, all guys who need contracts either this offseason or next offseason. Yeah, I don't, is Alvin clearing house? I don't know. We'll see. Could Brock Besser be the next one to go? I wonder. Unless Brock takes a discount of 6.5 to 7, he's gone, says Tyson. Also possibly. Sorry, I've been missing a lot of your comments. You've been sending a lot in here. I haven't been able to see all of them as I've been speaking. Van will make more moves, says Mike. Yeah, I would think that more is to come. Tyson saying that the Wild really need a top 6 winger, especially with Kaprizov injury. I'm guessing they make a move for him. Number 1 in a prospect. So yeah, I could definitely see Brock Besser going to Minnesota, as he's a Minnesota guy, born and raised, I believe, or at least went to school there. And then they need them on top of the fact that Kaprizov is out right now. So the Canucks would have 26.795 in cap space next year. If that's the case, if I need to give, let's say in a perfect world, Brock Besser 7.5 million, and I need a Pia Suter type guy at 1.5 million, I need a Drew O'Connor type guy at 1 million, I need Marcus Pettersson at, let's say, 5.85, to just in case, you never know. Derek Forbort type guy at 1.5 million. Let's see, that leaves me with like about 9.5 million. The Canucks are still in an okay spot, but then the year after, they have to get Thatcher Demko extended. They have to find a top 6 winger, if Connor Garland's going to be there or not. Are the Canucks bunting on the season? I don't know. They're still in the hunt for the postseason. Tic Tac, happy belated birthday now that it's past midnight, buddy. Bester Dad also hasn't been doing well. I can imagine the lure of him being close to home would be huge. Good point there. It seems like everything would match up, that the Canucks are looking to sell-ish. The Wild need a top 6 winger. I don't know. So yeah, it could definitely work for the Canucks cap-wise. But then all I have to say, is that a team that you're okay with? I don't know. Is this the team that could win a Stanley Cup or make a run? If all these players are just signed on, is this your team? Can you continue to compete with Dakota Joshua as a top 6 forward, with Pia Suter playing top 6 minutes? You have to think that Hedl needs to step up. Höglander needs to step up. You need Willander to be ready for the top 4 next season. You need Demko to want to extend. You need Besser to want to extend. It's really on like they're teetering between, let's make a push, not even let's be competing, but let's make a push and let's totally rebuild. So Miller out, that first round pick out. I don't know. What are the Canucks trying to do right now? It's a great question. What are they trying to do right now? Back here. And this is Victor Mancini's card, which was earlier today. Young depth defenseman, played 15 games, just enough for a card. So very, very small sample size there. Yeah. Oh, Brock Besser's dad yes, that's true. He had passed away a couple of years ago. So it's not that he's just not doing well. It's that his dad had passed a couple of years ago. Yes. Sorry. I mean, there's a lot going on in my head at once. So thanks for clarifying that, Tyson. Could he want to be closer to his family now because of that? I don't know. It's a couple of years removed. I'm not going to read too much into family situations, something that I know nothing about. Tyson saying, I think the Canucks will make a huge move for a top line winger. Let Brock walk and sign a legit line 1 winger to play with Elias Pettersson. They can pay a winger 10 to 14 million and still afford everyone easily. So with all that money, yes, do I need to necessarily pay Brock Besser 7 million or 8 million or whatever? No, I could trade Brock Besser now, get value from, let's say, the Minnesota Wild, and then I take all my money, I sign a big name in free agency, and then I have prospects and picks to be happy about as well. But what is the free agency class even looking like this year? Can I see it on Puckpedia? It must be somewhere for sure. For sure, it's somewhere here on Puckpedia. Where might that be? Maybe free agency. No, here, let me try and find it myself. Yeah, if Rantanen falls or if Marner falls, for sure, they could get huge money to go to Vancouver. Expiring 2025 NHL free agents. Here, Sport Track has it. Would they want to play in Vancouver? It also depend on what are they doing right now? I mean, what are they going to be doing by then? What are they going to be able to promise a free agent? So John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Mikko Rantanen, all potential free agents, and Nikolai Ehlers, Taylor Hall. It falls off pretty quickly after that. So if Marner is to go to free agency, the Canucks can be huge players for him. If Rantanen goes to free agency, the Canucks can be huge players for him. But I would think both Marner and Rantanen are re-signing with their teams. But if not, they would have huge money because, yes, the cap is going up, but it's not up yet. So a team like Vancouver that has, let's say, like $14 million to spend on somebody in the offseason right now, they're in a position of power because teams will have that money down the road, but a lot of those teams don't have that now. Yeah, Marner, Marcus Pettersson, 20 mil, still have 6 or 7 million to fill out the depth of the roster. Yeah, it's possible. But do those players want to go there? Do they even fall to free agency? Those are the big questions that would have to be answered. Yeah. So sorry for a little sidetrack there. I was just curious. So the Pittsburgh Penguins, just to recap it now before we end off, I think we've gone through most of it now. The Penguins now have another first-round pick in their stockpile, a great first from the Rangers. It could be very interesting. Is top 13 protected this year? So if the Rangers don't do well this year, and they end up falling to the top 13 pick, it slides to a 2026 unprotected first. I would think the Rangers either make the playoffs or are just on the outside looking in. So I think it probably ends up being like the 15th or 16th overall pick in the 2025 draft, but it's still a mid first round pick plus a prospect in Melvin Fernstrom, third round pick in 2024. So think of it as a first and a third, plus a couple of roster players that who knows what happens with them, in exchange for Marcus Pettersson, who's been great in Pittsburgh. He's eaten huge minutes for them. He's been hitting, he's been blocking, he's been showing top pair potential. He's been playing 20 and a half plus minutes per night for the last 2.5 seasons. He's able to do it. So the Penguins get solid value back for him. The Canucks, aside from the JT Miller conversation, just in terms of value, I don't like that they have to give up that first that they just got, and they're giving up more pieces in terms of, let's go back over here. They're giving up Fernstrom. They're also giving up roster players in exchange for just one guy in Marcus Pettersson, who's a question mark, potential expiring UFA, and a bottom six forward in Drew O'Connor. So I'm trying to not stay away from matching it with the JT Miller trade too much because that's something separate. But just from this trade itself, I'm not a big fan of it for the Canucks. Forget the JT Miller details. Marcus Pettersson has to extend. And even then, that first round pick is still a big question mark. But if Marcus Pettersson extends under $6 million, long-term, second pair guy, provides what the Canucks need in that on their second pair left side, then I can digest this trade as a Canucks fan. If that first ends up being best case scenario for the Penguins, where it's a top 10 pick in 2026 or whatever, and Pettersson ends up walking, well, then it's a devastation for the Canucks, not only for the value in this trade, but to say that they just blew the value of JT Miller and it went nowhere. That would be the problem. So in the end, if we put everything together, it's JT Miller, Eric Brandstrom, Danton Heinen, Vinny Desharnais, Jackson Dorrington, and Melvin Fernstrom, an elite forward, 3 depth/fringe NHLers, and 2 prospects, one a former third-round pick, one a former sixth-round pick, I believe, in exchange for a second-pair defenseman who's an expiring UFA and you got to resign, Drew O'Connor, who's an expiring, I believe, UFA as well, bottom six forward, Philip Hedl, lots of injury history, but a 50-point second-line center, hopefully you're crossing your fingers for, and Victor Mancini, who could play on your third pair D now and in the future. I don't like it for Vancouver, even with the context of JT Miller taken into account, because the context of JT Miller got you the first and all those other pieces. Then you flip that first for Marcus Pettersson. It's plus the other, not just the first for Pettersson, it's the first, the guy who drafted in the third round, plus 2 other NHL pieces for Pettersson O'Connor. Since Marcus Pettersson joined the NHL in 2017-18, no player has been hit more times than him. Wow. He also leads in hits against per 60 among players with 7,500 plus minutes at 8.65. That is incredible. He's just getting crushed out there. Poor Marcus Pettersson. That's incredible. So there you go. So yeah, Pettersson has a lot of pressure on him now. The Canucks have a lot of pressure on themselves to make the postseason. Are these trades just for the purpose of flipping them? Potentially, but they're not expiring. So Desharnais and Heinen, I would think, likely finish the year in Pittsburgh. And if they get flipped, it'll be next season. I would think that's what happens. Yeah, Elias has to step up now. Gen Z saying, I don't think New York will be that bad next year. No, but it's also an unprotected first. So it doesn't necessarily mean it'll be top 10, but it could be 12th, it could be 15th. I'd rather pick even 16th or 17th in 2026 rather than 14th in 2025. That's what I'm saying. Even if it's not top 10, if it ends up being anything 20 or below in 2026, I think that's a win. If it ends up being a 2026. Yeah. Looking at the list, I don't think even JT Miller alone for what we got would be worth it. That's where you got to take the context into account of JT Miller. That's why, as much as I didn't like it value-wise, it made sense context-wise for the first and all those other pieces. But to then flip that first with its conditions for an expiring UFA, the Canucks have to think that there's a great chance of re-signing Marcus Pettersson. Even then, it's a bit much, but if he's at a good AAV and it's a good term, I could swallow it as a Canucks fan. I could. Anything else that I'm missing here? I think we've gone through all the details. I think we've gone over it a few times. We've looked at both teams in the cup and the cap situations. The Penguins now have 2.406 in cap space. The Canucks took on a little bit more cap as they now have 2.387 in cap space for this year. They'll have a ton of cap space next year. They have all three of their firsts. They have 2 seconds for the next 3 years, no third this year or next year. So the draft pick situation isn't great, but it's not bad either. Just that they don't have a ton of prospects in their system. And yes, Dorrington and Fernstrom aren't blue chip guys for them, but those are 2 more guys in their system that I think were on could have been on trajectories to make the NHL. Yes, of course, they have Karamaki, they have Willander, they have all these guys, Ratu, yes. Kudryavtsev, even Ty Young. There's prospects in Vancouver's system. They can still even do more. I just don't like the idea of, and Aiden left a comment here on Twitter. Is it crazy to say I don't hate this for the Canucks? Backed into a corner with Miller, traded him in a bunch of throw-ins for a top pair defenseman and a guy who has the skill to be an excellent second-line center if he doesn't get injured. Yeah, that's why I wouldn't say I hate it for the Canucks in the best case scenario. If Pettersson is re-signed and playing those top minutes, and Heidel is your second-line center, then yeah, I don't hate it. But if Pettersson walks, and or if Heidel is stuck as a third-line guy / injuries, and or that Rangers first-round pick ends up being gold for the Penguins, then I don't like it. There's a few scenarios that have me saying it's an okay deal or even a good deal for the Canucks, but I feel like there's 2 or 3 times as many scenarios that make me say it's a bad deal for the Canucks. That's what I'm getting at. It's not a guaranteed slam dunk win or loss. It's just that I see probably 2 or 3 times more scenarios that go against Vancouver. Tic Tac saying back themselves into a corner only to come out of it with a very underwhelming return relative to what they would have gotten if they traded Miller in the summer. True. If you think of it as what they could have gotten and what they're getting today, it's a joke. If you think of it as what they could have gotten today, I suppose it makes sense. But the Canucks still have a lot of needs in their team. They'll have a lot of money. It's not going to be happening this season, I don't think. But they could still make it happen next year. Let me just pull up the standings again. Let's see this here. So the Vancouver Canucks losing tonight are on the outside looking in. They're 1 point back of the Flames, who have a game in hand over them. They're definitely still in the hunt. I don't think, as much as I love Utah and St. Louis, I don't think any of these teams are really in the hunt. I think there's going to be one team missing out here. Between the Kings, the Flames, and the Canucks, one of those three teams are missing the postseason. I think that's what it comes down to in the West. In the East, it's a lot more complicated. Pittsburgh is selling off. They get a first-round pick. They get a prospect. They're going to keep selling, blah, blah, blah. Great. For Vancouver, is this enough? Miller out. In terms of NHL pieces today, prospects aside, is Miller, Fernstrom wasn't playing, so is Miller, Heinen, Desharnais out, and Pettersson, O'Connor, Hedl in enough for the Canucks to say, okay, we're going to be continuing to make our push to make the postseason? I don't think so. They need to hope that Calgary helps them out too. This comment here from Matthew in a tweet as well says, if we re-sign Pettersson, it's much better for sure. Just need a second line center. Can Hedl be that guy? I don't know. Rid ourselves of 2 bad contracts in Heinen and Desharnais too. Miller's a big loss, but something clearly had to change with this core. Yeah, so contextually, again, I get it. But value-wise and what you could have gotten in the summer, if I'm talking to Vancouver, that's what hurts for them. Going back to the comments here. Could the entire Nucks team be better with Miller gone? I suppose value-wise, no. Morale-wise, and who knows what that leads to. That's gonna be the question that we're hoping to find an answer for. This team was never going to win the cup last year or this year. That's why I hated the Elias Lindholm trade. Yeah, that too. The Canucks went heavy on Elias Lindholm and didn't end up keeping him. Will it be the same situation with Marcus Pettersson? We'll find out. Yeah, it feels like that set us back. I think I can agree with you there. Yeah, all the Pettersson nameplate jerseys, not great. Dexter, good morning. What is the trade? Let's go ahead and get that for you here. There you go. Miller wasn't even producing. No, he wasn't, but that's more a result of, I would think, the internal rift and whatnot going on, as opposed to, okay, now this is the type of player that he is. As you know, last season he scored 100+ points. I think he can still be that 100+ point player. Is he going to be worth $8 million when he's 35, 36, 37? No, I don't think so. But this year, next couple of years, I think he still has that $8 million value, that valuation, or however you want to put it. So there's the trade. I brought it probably a lot longer than it could have been because we were having fun here on this, now Saturday morning. I think we've exhausted everything we can say here. We've looked through the points and the J Fresh guards and the cap situation for all the teams involved and all that. We could look at this. We'll finish off by looking at this. J Fresh's blurbs on these players. Here were the Miller, Pettersson, and O'Connor blurbs I wrote for the forthcoming EP Ringside Trade Deadline Guide. So JT Miller traded today. The pitch for him is that he's a top-line veteran playmaking forward with speed and physicality. The soap opera in Vancouver has continued to drag on, and the hockey world awaits the Canucks' decision in the endless feud between Miller and his co-star. Considering Miller's age, moving him would seem to be the logical option, but with his contract and commanding locker room presence, how many landing spots are realistic? Miller plays an assertive, straight-line game that's as confrontational and aggressive as he appears to be behind the scenes. His playmaking ability is undeniable and has remained solid this season, even as his goal scoring has evaporated. Hey, and Dexter with the $5 dono. Thank you very much, my friend. Goes a long way. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you very much. I'll add another entry for you into the created player raffle. And he remains a physical presence who speeds into corners and finishes his checks. So that's what the Canucks miss out on, or not miss out on, they trade away. They acquire indirectly Marcus Pettersson, a complimentary two-way defenseman with offensive upside, likely the top defender on the rental market. Pettersson's low-maintenance two-way game makes him a solid complementary piece on a top-4 pairing. He's never going to blow anybody away as a puck mover, and he has his weaknesses. At 6'4", 176 pounds, he's not a net front menace. He absorbs a lot of hits, and he's a bit quick to hit the deck in desperation on odd man rushes. But he's got a good defensive stick and can swing the puck around the offensive zone. So the Vancouver Canucks acquire him, as well as Drew O'Connor, who's a speedy puck-retrieving utility winger. He's gotten a decent amount of leash with the Pens, given their total lack of depth on the wing, but he's done very little with the opportunities provided to him. He's speedy in a straight line, chases down pucks, and battles on the boards, but his finishing touch is borderline non-existent, even with Hall of Famers feeding him, and his offensive upside isn't clear. That said, teams like fast and fearless puck retrievers, so I'm sure he'll find a good home. So there you go. The Vancouver Canucks get Pettersson and O'Connor, the major pieces coming back here in the overall scheme of things with the Penguins. They get Hedl and Mancini from the Rangers, and it costs them Miller, Heinen, Desharnais for guys in the NHL, Fernstrom in the AHL, Dorrington and Fernstrom for prospects, and bada bing, bada boom. There you go. Thanks again, Dexter. Just looking through the comments here. I could definitely see a Sherwood, Bluger, O'Connor fourth line being good. But again, let me go back here. With O'Connor expiring and Sherwood signed on, yes. Who was the other one you said? Bluger. Bluger signed on. Okay, so Bluger and Sherwood are signed on. It's Drew O'Connor was an expiring UFA who'd have to get signed. Yeah. So there's a ton of question marks still associated to this trade and to the two trades this evening, actually. Yeah. And a lot of it hinges, says Lance, on Elias Pettersson coming back into form now that Miller is gone. If Pettersson continues to struggle and the Canucks continue to struggle and they miss the postseason, and if whether or not Pettersson resigns, that's already a bad case, a bad situation for you right there. But then Pettersson doesn't resign either. O'Connor doesn't even resign. This trade, and even Heidel signed on for 2 more years. And Mancini. Okay, so this trade could quickly become just Heedle and Mancini for Miller, Brandstrom, Dorrington, Heinen, Desharnais, and Fernstrom. That's a worst case scenario. I don't want to be a doomsday guy because there's a ton of moving pieces between these two trades, these three teams, these multiple pieces, so that I won't pass too much judgment yet. But as I said before, I'll end off by saying this. I see a lot more potential outcomes that don't go Vancouver's way as opposed to outcomes that do go Vancouver's way. If 30 outcomes go Vancouver's way, I'd say 70 don't. I'd say there's a lot more scenarios that don't benefit the Canucks. Yeah, Mancini's been good for the Rangers. Again, very small sample size. Numbers aren't great in 15 games, but I like what he's shown from what I've watched for Rangers games from Mancini. I think he'll be an okay third pair guy, maybe even a future second pair guy for the Canucks. What would be the move if Elias Pettersson falls apart? Get value for Brock Besser while you can. I don't know if there'd be much more than that. I don't know if you want to dump Pettersson and Hughes right now, but I'd say the very first move to do would be move Brock Besser, get value back, try to be a huge player in free agency. And if that doesn't work, then comes the fire sale of guys under term like Pettersson, maybe even Hughes, maybe even Demko. That's what I would say there. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. There's a couple big trades here this evening. Recapping. Oh, it's gone. Okay, go back here. Daily Faceoff. Recapping one last time this second trade that we brought in this evening. It is Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor to the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for the Penguins as they are sellers. They bring back Danton, Heinen, and Vinny Desharnais, both players who are signed on for this year and next. So we'll see what happens with them. But they also bring in Melvin Fernstrom, a player who was just drafted in the 3rd round by the Canucks this past draft, and a 2025 first-round pick from the Rangers that is top 13 protected and may, if ends up being top 13, it would then slide to a 2026 unprotected first-round pick. So all those conditions that the Canucks got for giving up JT Miller, they now give those conditions to the Penguins so as to acquire Marcus Pettersson. That's the way the trade tree has gone here. That's what I'd say. Yeah, that's the way it's gone. So lots more to say. Vendetta, thanks for the love. Appreciate everybody being here on this Friday evening / Saturday morning. Again, subscribe if you haven't already for breaking news and analysis in the real world of hockey. It gives me nothing to subscribe, no revenue, nothing, but you will be notified of when we go live with a breaking news trade or our franchise mode series, our live stream series. Subscribe, hit that bell, join the team. We'd love to have you. Join the Discord server as well, link in the description. That's where news is broken even more quickly. I'm live within a few minutes. Here we are on the channel. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments down here on YouTube or on that Discord server who wins this trade and why. What are the conditions that would make you say that the Canucks could come out on top? Yes, we've been hearing that Miller was a bad contract. It's good to get the reset to the locker room, all that good stuff. Yes, but value for value. I didn't like the first Miller trade, and value for value, I don't know about this trade either. So a lot to still be figured out. Could it go Vancouver's way? Absolutely. But I'm a little bit hesitant if I'm a Canucks fan to say that I'm excited about these moves. A lot that could still come out. I can't pass final judgment yet, but we'll see soon. So thanks everyone for being here. We'll have more trades coming as the trade deadline gets closer. We'll have more live streams going, and everybody get some sleep now. Let's go. Saturday morning. We're getting late for these live streams. We gotta have GMs working earlier in the day. Everybody, thanks for being here, and looking forward to seeing you in the next one.